Hey there, folks. I hope you all doing well. You already know what it is. Let's get to it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've gone from cow burps are warming the planet to penguin poop is creating clouds. According to new research published in Communications, Earth and Environment, climate scientists in Antarctica have found a huge link between the amount of penguin guana and clouds. Research explains that penguins mostly eat fish and krill, and so that their waste contains high amounts of nitrogen that then breaks down into ammonia, and when it mixes with the sulfur compounds from the ocean, the clouds just start to roll in. Now, they can't say for certain that penguins cause clouds, but their research shows that the more penguins, the more penguin guana, the more clouds there are. And they've got a lot of fancy graphs to prove this. Now, they don't know if these clouds are warming the planet or cooling the planet, but they do feel that the penguins have something to do with climate change. To me, this just sounds like more climate quackery, but hey, I'm not a scientist. As always, I want to hear what you think about all of this down below.
I don't believe none of it. I don't believe none of it.
This astronaut's trying to tell you we didn't really go to the moon. Watch
They've been
this.
trying to tell you all along, but you never listen. Buzz Aldrin, the famous astronaut who was on the moon, was trying to tell us that the moon landing was fake.
He's
the whole
still
time.
alive, by
Let's
the
watch
way.
this video.
What was the scariest moment of the journey?
It never happened.
Scary. It didn't happen.
Told you.
It could have been scary.
I has nobody been to in such a long time.
Because we did.
He said it multiple times.
That's the way it happened. I remember my parents waking me up and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon.
No,
which
you
was
didn't. No, you didn't.
what?
You watched animation. So you associated what you saw with
I have very hazy
Saying
memory.
it for years, yo.
a bad lie.
There is no such thing as gravitational pull. We lied to you. Maybe this whole operation was never really about reaching the moon. What if the entire mission was just a carefully planned distraction to keep us from paying attention to
y'all.
what's actually happening?
Buzz Aldrin does not care anymore, y'all. He's been telling us the truth for years. As always, let me know what you think in the comments. Stay weak.
The eighth mass casualty event has just occurred. I'm going to keep making these videos until y'all get it through your heads that something is wrong with the human brain. Multiple people were just shot at a mall, but guess where? Again, it's the East Coast. Come right back to this.
What's going on in the human brain? I've noticed something really troublesome over the last year. I told y'all people's brains are not acting right. Another mass casualty event in South Carolina. Do y'all believe me yet? Another mass casualty, just like all the ones I've been showing you over the last 3 days. This one in Philadelphia, again on the East Coast.
So do y'all believe me yet that there is a huge malfunctioning happening in the brains of people, making them act violent and chaotic? Look, my brain is extremely good at recognizing patterns, and then I start connecting dots really quick. So when I make a video about something, it's because I'm sure something is weird. I can't show you the videos from in the mall because they are way too freaking crazy. And while all of this chaos has been happening on the East Coast, but also Australia, Liverpool, a whole bunch of places, my brain has been feeling extremely fuzzy. We hadn't even seen the sun in 3 or 4 days here. I live in South Carolina. Schumann frequencies are going wild, but not just that. Solar flares, weird green clouds. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The video you see behind me is not related at all whatsoever, completely irrelevant, and just for your entertainment. I wonder what's going on.
Tell everybody get out of here. I said, go, get out of here. Let's go.
Yeah, he was in the mall. Let me know what you think below.
If you enjoy content like this, I put out several videos a week. It'll be amazing if you hit the subscribe button and join me in the next video.
Right off the top, domestic violence is never okay, period.
Man, I feel like a woman.
Qu'est-ce que c'est? There was a bit of a tussle in Hanoi, Vietnam. Qu'est-ce que c'est? His flight might have experienced a little bit of turbulence while it was grounded. Now, people are saying, and I'm not people, that his father merely disciplined him publicly, which has led to some lingering philosophical questions like how old is too old to spank your child? That is 2 arms. Because that frozen Brigitte is wearing some sort of a watch or a piece of jewelry. And I just went, okay, that's just like dudes beginning to fight. It's giving fight or flight a new meaning. I mean, this could be called fight on flight response. Look at him. Genuinely, he looks like he pooped his pants. I feel Macron is practicing whatever it is that he learned in anger management because his fist, look at that fist. He's just, oh. We know that fist, obviously. That's the Arthur fist. We've all seen it. He punched DW.
His wife mushed him in the face. I don't know why, but she straight mushed that dude.
This one's gonna keep you up for a while tonight. The hospital theory is one of the craziest things I've ever heard in my life, but let me know your thoughts. I ain't saying I believe it. We all know the biggest mysteries out there are what happens when we die and why are we alive, what is actually the meaning of life. Now there's obviously a lot of religions that believe in reincarnation, the belief that your soul lives on and you're essentially reborn into a new body. Now hospitals, what happens in them? You can probably see where I'm going. Hospitals are the place known for life and death. It's where a lot of people's lives sadly end, but also where new life begins and life starts. Now when babies are born, they cry, right? Well, what if the reason babies cry when they're born is because they have just been reborn? The light at the end of the tunnel analogy that you always hear is actually the hospital light of you being reborn. The babies are crying because they know exactly what's happened. They've just been in another life and have seen themselves being reborn, but they can't speak and the memories slowly get erased over time. So this theory essentially suggests that hospitals are like a gateway of life and death, where souls are essentially the currency. One person passes away, a new life is born. It sounds absolutely mad, to be honest. I don't really know what to make of it, but it's an interesting thought that will keep you up, so let me know.
Come, Sam.
That's a glimpse into the future right there. Pretty soon all the hospitals will be like that. Robots and stuff.
I used to work in a morgue for 10 years, and the weirdest, scariest thing I ever saw was this one cadaver, as we call them, a body basically. It was my job to clean them up and make their faces clean the blood off, make them look presentable for their families to identify them, you know, if there's been a major trauma. And this one cadaver, I noticed her eye was twitching, so I lifted the lid and there was a fucking maggot in there. A live maggot, so obviously you can't have that. So I got the tweezers, I tried to get in there, but the maggot was trying to embed itself further in. Her eye was doing that, and the maggot was trying to embed itself under the eye. So I had to go and get it, and I was literally an inch away from this lady's face, like that, trying to get this fucking maggot. All of a sudden, her mouth slowly opened like this, as wide as it can go, like that. And I was like, what the f? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she went and I'm not kidding you, I legged it out of that room. I never knew a noise like that could come from another human being, especially a dead one. Legged it out, got my superior, came back, and she was normal again. The maggot was still there. We had to get the maggot out, but that's quite normal actually. But her mouth was closed and she was just lying there. My boss wouldn't believe me. She sent me home. Thought I was fucking drunk or on drugs. Never went back to work. I worked there 10 years. And I've spoken to people, I've spoken to doctors since then, and none of them believe me. They say you must have seen something else, because that is physically, biologically impossible. A dead body cannot do that. But I know exactly what I saw. It fucking haunts my dreams. I have nightmares about it. It's something that I can't ever unsee.
If you pour vinegar over your hands or over your arms, on any kind of component of your skin, because of the smell and the vapor of the vinegar that it gives off, it is actually a deterrent to the crabs and they won't bite. Watch. Oh! Oh! Me dead.
Okay, that didn't work, did it?
This is the most famous dog in the world right now, and you're about to find out why. King Charles rose to global fame after the world witnessed how he ruled his kingdom. When his subjects fought, he would calmly walk over, identify the troublemaker, and then put them in their place. Most of the time with his signature move of walking over their body. People couldn't believe that dogs nearly twice his size would cower and bow in the mere presence of his aura. There was no dog that would dare question his authority. authority. And whenever there was trouble brewing in the kingdom, King Charles would deal with it in a just manner, using the exact amount of force necessary. And when the internet saw that he was not only a strong leader, but a fair one too, they went wild. TikTok edits started flooding the platform like top 5 King Charles aura moments. Spoiler, number 3 is walk over the op's body. Lessons in meme culture started teaching his class about Charles's rule, and his aura, which started in a small dog shelter in China, has now spread to global dominance witnessed by hundreds of millions. But that's not where the story ends, because recently a new character has entered the shelter named Tyrant, and the absolute unthinkable happened. Not only did he refuse to bow to the king, but he attacked him, forcing Charles to do something we have never seen before: retreat. However, despite his dominance, the kingdom's subjects don't accept Tyrant the way they accept Charles, only proving there's more to his leadership than fear. Still, this threw the Doggarchy into absolute chaos, but fortunately, Tyrant was removed and imprisoned for treason, bringing order back to the kingdom. Rebellions still brew each day that passes, and Rocky's refusal to accept the rule of law is an ever-growing concern. But for now, Charles remains the king.
Here's everything you need to know about the cursed doll Annabelle that went missing. This is the doll that inspired the films Annabelle. The legend of this doll dates back to the 1970s, where a nurse in Connecticut actually received this doll as a gift. Annabelle is said to be possessed by a very strong demon that has been known to attack people, move on its own, and even write creepy notes. But people decided to remove her and take her on tour. Yeah. This is part of the exhibition called Devil's Run, and Annabelle was like, that's me, I'm gonna go for a run, bye-bye. Basically, during one of the stops on the tour, they said that you were not allowed to go see Annabelle the doll, which fueled the rumors of, oh my gosh, she is missing, she escaped. Which now they're saying are just rumors and they're not true, but people think that they're just lying and Annabelle is still on the loose. They just don't want to scare people, you know? But get this. An intense and suspicious fire actually broke out at one of the locations that Annabelle was staying at. This was the Nottoway Resort in Louisiana, and it happened just days after she was there. Coincidence? I think not. It was Lorraine Warren that literally said that Annabelle is so evil that they should never move her or attempt to move her. She just needs to stay in her case and be locked away to play it safe. Can we please listen to? Thank you. Thank you.
How many uncontacted tribes are they aware of?
I think there's like over 100 different groups across the Amazon. They're people that live out in the jungle. And I have no idea how they do it either, because, you know, at night we need headlamps. We don't have night vision. All the animals have night vision. So it's like, what do they do that night? They're able to make fire in the jungle at night, every day. If I gave you an entire book of matches, me and you, we sat down right now in the jungle. It's like, okay, cool. You got a machete and a book of matches. First one to make fire wins. We couldn't do it. It's wet. Everything is wet. So how are they, what's their, are they doing bow drill? What are they doing? So
we don't know.
We don't really know. No. We don't know how they do that. We don't know how they stay infection free. We don't know what they do with their old people. We never see old people. We never really see children. There's so much that we don't know about their lifestyle.
Guys, we found a suitcase at the beach.
Gavin, go. I'll hold your stuff.
Bro. Wait, open it. Woo. Oh. Okay, so she's calling the police.
Full disclosure, this happened 5 years ago in 2020, so we're a little bit late to the party, but it's still a terrifying story. The video that you guys just watched shows TikTokers walking around on a beach, discovering a suitcase, opening it up, being overwhelmed with a disgusting smell, and calling the police. Little did they know, their worst fears were inside of that bag. So I'm not sure if you guys remember, but back in 2020, there was this app that exploded in popularity known as Randonautica. The premise of the app was really simple. The goal was to just get people outside exploring their area. You would input where you lived, it would give you a random GPS coordinate, you would drive to that and try to find an adventure. A lot of people theorized that this app had some sort of connection with the spiritual world. Obviously, we're not going to delve into that, but a lot of people did find things that were very strange, including these TikTokers who ended up discovering a body inside of a suitcase on a beach in Seattle. Inside of the suitcase that these TikTokers discovered were two individuals, Jessica Lewis and Austin Wenner, who lost their lives in June of 2020 at the hands of their landlord. The landlord here was Michael Dudley, a 64-year-old from Burien, which is right next to Seattle. He's the one who took the lives of these two tenants, and he thought that he would get away with it by throwing them into the water here, but obviously that's not the case. This TikTok also is really what sparked off the entire investigation here into Dudley, and he was caught and sentenced. At the end of the day, this story is bizarre and completely, and as always, let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Drop a comment letting me know what you want to see next, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
Viewers, you don't know who the government is. You don't know why you're being made to see these things. Nor do I. You're seeing me. I can't even see you. I may be dead by the time you watch this, but it possibly are. You don't know if the man who's making things and wants you to see. Destroy your television sets now. Because listen to no orders. That's all I can tell you at this point.
On November 28, 2019, a Ring doorbell video was released out of Harriet Creek Ranch, Texas, depicting a young girl screaming out for help. However, at the time, no one was home, and this video quickly went viral. But first, I'll show the video in full, and then I'll break it down for you. As you can see, while pleading for help, she continuously looks over her shoulder as if someone was behind her, and many people are adamant that someone is behind the bush on the left-hand side. And after zooming in and adjusting the brightness, there is definitely movement. However, due to the quality, it's hard to make out. Now, online users quickly pointed out that this could be a missing girl named Serenity Denard, and she had run away in February of 2019 from a state facility in South Dakota. However, she was presumed dead because where she ran away was right next to a national forest, and it was still winter when she vanished. However, I did find an update from Serenity's mother on Facebook, and she explained that she was in contact with Texas authorities, and after reviewing the footage, confirmed it was not Serenity. In addition, she states that the little girl lived in the same neighborhood. However, I looked everywhere online and couldn't find an official statement from Texas law enforcement. But what makes this even stranger is that there was one more piece of footage that the Ring motion captured when she was running away. I'll put on screen what I think she says, but listen closely. Now we'll likely never know the full story, but let me know what you think.
Breaking news, President Trump has just pardoned Todd and Julie Chrisley, the TV stars of the reality TV show Chrisley Knows Best. In 2022, the couple was found guilty of tax evasion, and the husband Todd was sentenced to 12 years in prison, while the wife Julie was sentenced to 7, and they have both been behind bars since. President Trump announced this news to the family by calling the daughter Savannah. He said, "I don't know your parents, I don't know the couple personally, but when I look at the case, this was not a fair sentence," and he's hoping to get them out as early as tomorrow. This is how the kids reacted when they heard the call.
We'll try getting it done tomorrow. So wonderful. Give them, I don't know them, but give them my regards and wish them a good life.
Mr. President.
Yes. How are you?
Well, thank you for bringing my parents back.
Yeah, well, they were given a pretty harsh treatment based on what I'm hearing.
I hope they bring the cameras back out, because now I want to hear what happened and went down from their point of view. How do you feel about this pardon? As always, let me know down below.
The president is pardoning a lot of people right now.
Mirrors are low-key creepy. You are not alone in that fear. Around the world, for thousands of years, people have been terrified of mirrors, not because of how they reflect you, but what might be looking back at you. Have you ever seen a mirror covered after someone passes away? Yeah, it's so that their soul doesn't get trapped in the mirror. Certain religions do that. Feng Shui says never put a mirror at the end of your bed because your soul might get confused while you're asleep and wind up in the mirror. In ancient Greece, they used to use mirrors to contact the dead, and sometimes the dead spoke back. And that brings us to to? The Demon Mirror. The mirror so terrifying that the Vatican has to keep it locked underground in the secret archive. The Demon Mirror is claimed to be carved from obsidian, which is volcanic rock that the Aztecs used to use to summon their god. The gag with the Demon Mirror is it doesn't summon anything, it shows you your death, or worse, it shows you your shadow self. They say this mirror whispers in Latin, cracks during blessings, and then heals itself overnight. One priest decided he was going to be Billy Badass and stand in front of the mirror alone. He left the room with his eyes bleeding, mumbling, "It knows my name," and he was never the same. The Vatican classifies the Demon Mirror as a Class 3 infernal object, and it's in a lead-lined vault with constant supervision. Why? Not because it's haunted or possessed, but because it's waiting. What the hell is it waiting on? The church says there might be a twin out there, and if these two mirrors link up, it is quite literally the apocalypse. Here's the thing, black obsidian mirrors are actually not that uncommon. They're used as scries all the time, but there's certain mirrors out there like the one that John Dee used the Vatican's keeping a close eye on, but that's not it. Inside the Vatican archives, there's also a crucifix that bleeds during solar eclipses, but we can talk about that another time.
What I just read was so interesting. You know the Roswell incident? Well, I just came across this document called Alien Interview. So Matilda was an army nurse. She claims that this was an alien crash and bodies were recovered. She says the bodies were not biological, but also not mechanical technology. They had an electrical and nervous system that is beyond human comprehension, and they were operated by alien consciousness. Matilda states that of the bodies recovered, one still allowed its conscious to remain in the body, and it communicated with her telepathically because she was able to communicate. So this 300-page document is all about these army officers and people that want her to interview this alien. They give her questions, but then the alien's always just like, tell you about your reality. After all of this happens, the army puts Matilda under witness protection program. They send her out of the country, and apparently she writes this as she's on her deathbed because she's like, the world needs to know now. And these interviews are so interesting. They're so interesting, especially if you take it from the perspective of like, okay, did she just make this up? Because the things they talk about, you're actually like, damn, that kind of makes sense. In one interview, the alien, whose name is A-I-R-L, Earl, but I just like to call him Earl because Earl's a great name. Earl was like, science is basically just the religion of matter. It worships matter. It goes into how dogmatic physical science is, saying it's just as extreme as religion is. And Earl says that because of the bias of scientists, it prevents observation of all phenomenon as an interactive whole. It continues that scientists pretend to observe, but they only suppose what they can see, and they call it fact. Like the blind man, a scientist cannot learn to see until he realizes that he is blind. The facts of Earth science do not include the source of creation. They include only the result or byproducts of creation. The facts of science do not include any memory of the nearly infinite past experience of existence. Like, there's so much in this document where Earl is just basically like, you guys think you're so smart, but you're so dumb. Earl also goes into the vast expansiveness of all creation and talks about the domain and the empire. Earl is from the domain. The old empire is a group that created Earth, I guess, is like a prison planet. And it was wild reading it because it was like oddly similar to the early Christian Gnostics' belief about archons controlling the planet. Earl said that Earth is a ghetto planet because of an intergalactic holocaust. And then it talks about how Earth basically traps you in reincarnation and they zap your memories. It was a wild document. It's super interesting to read.
Wouldn't be why we're all of a sudden just jumping on this hate Jordan Peterson train, because I don't understand. Like, I get that it's probably because of this like Zionist, anti-Zionist movement that's been going on, where if you're not pro-America, you're really not in it for the interests of everyone here, which I completely get and I'm behind. But the fact that, you know, since that Jubilee video where it's one Christian quote versus 20 atheists, I mean, I couldn't even stand being in a room with those guys for more than like a minute. Like, they are so arrogant and disrespectful that it's probably like, it's pretty excusable why Jordan would talk the way he would be, or not give him the satisfaction in the debate, right? But the thing is, Jordan Peterson, he was always able to, you know, talk about Christianity from a outside standpoint, where he can explain why you have the faith and like the actual factors going into what Christianity is. And you don't need to necessarily, you know, pronounce or denounce your faith to do that, right? And I feel like we all understood that. But for some reason, he's been getting just so criticized and torn up through this. I really don't understand why, and it's probably because I wasn't paying attention too much from him the last couple of years. But please explain to me why all of a sudden it's just like, it seems like between him, Charlie Kirk, and then Ben Shapiro, that these guys are just now 3 out of the 4 men of the apocalypse? Like, I don't understand. 3 out of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Please explain to me.
The world is full of the most random coincidences. So this is Ari Deco. Apparently he patented technology around free energy and was headed to an airport to meet with investors, but he never made his flight. He was found dead in his car. What? This is Stefan Marinov. He was the leader of the European free energy movement and even had a working prototype within that sector when he fell out of a window. What? Dr. John Mullen was a nuclear physicist who worked for one of the largest military contractors in the world. He made advancements within the energy sector when he died due to arsenic poisoning. Now, police suspected that it was his girlfriend. They went to the apartment. They also found she was dead. What? Case closed, no other suspects. Dmitry Petronov made a plasma battery that powered his 2-story home for 14 months. Zachary Warfield was also working on a similar project. He even met Dmitry a couple of times. Both of them mysteriously died. Yeah, one day he went to go get bread and was never seen again, and he died in a freak boating accident. Eugene Malov was a physicist and expert in cold fusion who claimed to have a working prototype, but the day before he was going to go public, he was beaten to death randomly on the streets. Rory Johnson invented a cold fusion motor that generated over 500 horsepower. The US Department of Energy filed for a restraining order against his technology so that he could not go public with it. You're never going to believe this, but he was super healthy and then died mysteriously. Mark Tomian was awarded a patent for a zero-point energy system, and he even made a working prototype when he mysteriously died and his research went missing. Stan Thompson invented a car that ran on water. When he met with investors to raise some money to get that out there, he died during lunch. His last words were, "I've been poisoned." But you know Nikola Tesla? Well, in 1951, JP Morgan invested over $150,000, which would be millions in today's money, all for Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower project. Tesla pitched it as a wireless telecommunication tower, but really he intended it to be a wireless transmission of free electricity. Now, when Morgan found out that Tesla was trying to make electricity free, he did not like that, right? Because he owns General Electric, copper mines, rubber mills, that Tesla would not get any more funding for. Tesla died, he died penniless. He had over 70 boxes of his research, but when the feds swooped in, they only accounted for 50. That's so weird. Promise you, all the disparity that exists in the world right now has nothing to do with the fact that we keep inventing technology that can lift people up and get us out of these situations, but the current system that is built on maximizing profit suppresses this technology to keep everybody in chains. That's not happening.
Yes, that is a fact. If you create something that's going to interrupt these big companies making money, you will run into a wall, an accident, and be erased from this world. So please be careful if you come out with technology like this, because all these people got sent away. So these big companies could continue to make money. They don't want you to have nothing for free. They want you to pay for it.